Could you, I'm about to select out the stream. Could you check it?
Yep.
Streamers. All right. Okay, so we'll get started here in a sec. Just want to make sure the stream's okay before we do. All good? Okay, so Cody was asking me a question right before I started up the stream again about destructuring, and if I could go over it again really quickly for everyone. So we just have assignments for the rest of today, so I get to cover this really quick, just another like pointer, hey, this is how destructuring works, and then we'll get back to doing our assignments. So I'm gonna just make a new dir test. Go in here, do an npm init, so I can run this and show you. I didn't even do that. I just should note. Okay, so let's bring it over here. It's kind of ugly. All right, I'm gonna open up some code. Oh, I'll close the code. Open up the code again. Let's just create a really little index.js. So remember, Node can destructure natively. Node has special tools in it to like do a little bit more advanced stuff than most browsers can. I think Chrome can do destructuring too. But let's say we have an object, okay? And it has two properties, A and B. A set to 10, B set to true. And you decide that you want to get those out, okay? So why don't we just console log, and I'll run this, console log the object, just to see what it's all about, okay? We want to get A out, we want to get B out, maybe in a function. So we're going to create a function that's going to get an object in. We'll call it something. Doesn't matter what it is. And in this something function, we want to take the properties out, and we know that it's going to look something like that object that we've declared up there. We'll get an A and a B out, right? That's the destructuring syntax. It's pulling the properties out in the same like object-looking form, but it's automatically assigning variables to those properties. So I could, easily do console.log A and console.log B, and I'll get the values out, but I should see 10 for A and true for B. Let's say I don't want to destructure. It's just not what I want to do. But I want to get A out, right? So we'll do underscore A. Underscore B, since I've already declared A and B. Jeez, harshest critics, my word. Just trying to show you a little extra work, gosh. Okay. So we have that little code. Does everyone see right here on line 14 and 15? This is the exact same. If we were to just name this A and B, which we can't, right? Because we have this destructor up here, which is already doing that. But if we were to name this A and B, and just pull something A out and something B out, it would be the exact same as this destructure syntax. That's all the destructuring is doing. It's like syntactic sugar is what it's called for pulling properties out quickly and with less work. So I can pull as many out as I want in this object list thing at one time. Kind of, saves typing, right?
But you gotta know how many elements are in.
Yeah, you have to know what's in there, right? So, I mean, you can't just pull random stuff out. It'll come back as undefined. Your question, Ben?
Yeah, you have to know what's in there. You also have to know the name.
Yes. Yeah, you have to know the name of the property that's in there. So if I did node on index.js, you can see I got the console log of the item object. A is 10, B is true. And I'm pulling out the A and the B there in the first statements, and then I'm console logging again with the underscore A and underscore B. Now, the last thing about destructuring that makes it even nicer than this is if I have an object that's coming in to a function, right? And I want to be ultra lazy, I can just do that. So this one is really nice, and you'll see this a lot. Again, kind of true. So that's what destructuring is. It just like literally breaks apart that object into the properties that exist on the object. And it's a really convenient tool. Vaughn?
Why would you want to do that first?
Why would I want to do this? Is it less work?
Well, as far as like, yeah, I would want, as far as our example, we had like a something in there.
Uh-huh.
Or all the time, why not have our 80s right there?
Oh, why not do this every time?
Right.
I don't know. We didn't want to add a layer of confusion to the examples. So like a lot of times in React, you'll see the props broken up like this, destructured out. So you'll just see this curly braces and then all of the props labeled. That component takes in prop type and prop name. You can literally break it out to be type and name in here, and you'll just have them. It makes it way easier. A lot less typing, right?
An example, so set the bracket syntax. All that is saying that's a variable as the key.
So like the bracket with the name?
With like a. Like a lot of things. Yeah, name.
So okay, so when it's doing like the set state, this dot sets, whoops. Set state like this, you mean? Where it does name? Okay, this is a little bit different. It's like the reverse of destructuring. It allows you to do dynamic property allocation. Variable name, right? Right? So this is saying set property Carson equal to A. Get the exact same thing out is Carson, like that. Basically, what those brackets around name in here means is we're going to take, instead of taking the literal string name, like we would if we didn't have the brackets, like that would just be property name, right? You have the brackets that says evaluate what's inside of here.
So it's usually a variable that's inside.
It's a variable, always. It's going to be a variable. Or some expression. I mean, I could do a name dot join woo or something, and that would work. Like, it's weird. You can do whatever you want. It's an expression. JavaScript is very flexible.
What do you call it? Dynamic property
Allocation. I don't know what the technical term for this is, but it's like they're called, the properties technically in JavaScript are called paths, right? Like a path to a document, right? And so you can imagine your path is just a set of strings, something dot something dot something dot something. That's your full path all the way down an object. So this is like dynamically generating your paths for your object.
Does it have to be A and B? Or
If you wanted to change A and B,
yeah, does it have to be A and B?
it does. But if you did this, now you would change the name of them to X and Y.
Okay.
So this is the same thing. So we can go and run it again. Oops, did yarn start? That's the same thing. You're using the colon syntax there. I'm pulling out property name, assigning it to X, pulling out property B, assigning it to Y. So remember, this is very similar to that object syntax we've been using so far in JavaScript, right? Except for it's like the reverse. Now we're assigning stuff to those as opposed to putting them in the object. Yes. So in terms of making things a little bit more concrete as what's come into a function, instead of having something called props, you can literally spell out all of the props that are going to be there. Ben?
So in this situation where we're using that object type syntax, how is it that JavaScript recognizes that you're not just going to make an object that with two separate key-value pairs?
Basically, the way you're doing it, right? So obviously, if we did this, you can see we have the equal sign is on the right side, or not the equal sign, the object syntax is on the right side of the equal sign, right? If the object syntax is on the left side of the equal sign, that means we're destructuring an object. Is in the function declaration, you can't create an object there. However, to make it even more confusing, I could do that. And I can say that either I'm going to get an object in with property A, which is going to be converted to X, property B converted to Y, or if I don't get anything, I'm just going to make it this empty object. But that doesn't really help you there. Like in this particular instance, it doesn't. But you could do that, I guess. Or it's in a function call, it's destructuring. If it's on the right-hand side, it's creating an object.
So say you wanted to like change the variable, you wanted to swap A and B. Could you do A:B colon A? And that would change.
A colon B. That's a good question. That might cause a problem. But let's see. I don't know. Yeah. Look at that. The reason why you can is because this A and this B on the left side of the colon are the names of the properties, and this B and this A are actually the values of the variables being set. They're not in the same scope at that point. So if you did this in my code, I'd probably punch you in the face. But you can do it. It's there, right? So yeah, I mean, if you're into that, then that's cool. But any other questions on this before we do our next assignment? That's gonna be after.
Okay.
So any other questions? The next assignment, Alex, that you could select out is the Ajax form delete. We're gonna do that one next. Okay, we'll do this one. We're gonna have one more assignment after it, and then we're gonna briefly go over deployment before class is over. It's already 1. So this was made for a weekday, and we could have technically gotten it all done, but we talked about a lot of things because people are asking questions, which is great. You know, I'm hopefully, oh, thank you. Hopefully, yeah, you're learning more from our discussion than you will from a lot of these assignments. So
Sorry for getting
it's okay. It makes me a better person.
And just so you know, the fact that you wanted to swap those over, you're never working anyway.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we're writing that down. You're on a list. All right. So the Ajax form delete is out. Go ahead and do that one. The do this one that he called it. Yeah, we're skipping, like I said, a couple of assignments. So the form delete we'll do. Give you about 15 minutes to do that. We'll cover it. We'll do one more. Give you about 15 minutes, and then we'll try to cover deployment before y'all leave.
And I have a question like the solutions to that. So if you pull latest, and you're going to did that already? Yes. Well, for the one that we did around the recipe, like the recipe. Oh, of course, this one not yet. Okay, so I gotta figure it out. But I will push it off for the one that was.
So should we do it the first or the second?
The one that says do this one, and then the instructions right below that say readme.md, do this one. Yeah, it's kind of confusing. He selected out the wrong one. I didn't relate to him that we were skipping an assignment. That's kind of my bad. But we can blame Alex anyway.
Yeah, Alex.
Alex,
I feel like 8 times.
just one.
Way more minutes.
That little snippet that I just wrote right here in Visual Studio Code, I selected out to Saturday classes. If you want to look at it again, play with it, feel free. Was the node mon? What does it do? The node mon allows you to run your Express server or like a node server, and then when you make changes to it and save it, it reloads the server automatically for you.
You gotta install it global level.
Yeah, you can install it globally.
Well, you don't have to, but it's just.
You can install it globally if you want, or you can install it in the package. A lot of people in my class know that I'm against global installs. So.
Are you? Never.
Yeah, really? Yeah. Yeah, if you actually came to class instead of remoting like every day.
All right, I'm done.
It doesn't feel good.
Hey, Carson, do you have ESLint installed globally?
ESLint, that can go either way. I usually don't. I would install create React app globally. Yeah, that's it. Probably everything we've used, that's the only one I would probably do globally. Because that one, the things I do not install globally are the packages you're dependent upon inside of your apps, right? So if I download your source code and you're expecting me to have ESLint or NodeMod or something installed globally, I'm not ever going to use your source code. Because if I run it and it doesn't install everything that it needs, and I have to figure it out, I'm going to be mad, right? That's more work I have to do to figure out what the hell is going on. And that's kind of the problem with it. So there's nothing inherently wrong with installing stuff globally. It's just it makes it harder for other people to use your stuff. You might forget to add it to the package JSON.
I'm assuming like every time we use NodeMon, we're just using it to run on local host until we upload it to a Heroku app.
Right. I mean, it's assuming that I would need to use your code. Okay?
Yeah,
The reason why I kind of warn against it is I don't want you to get in the habit of doing it when it matters. It doesn't matter today. It doesn't. Install it all globally. I don't care. But you know, in the future, it might.
Wait, weren't we told to install React for nodes?
In the beginning of the course, when we started the course, Node moves really, really, really fast.
So,
Yeah.
of course, I
And then, it didn't work with this computer, I don't know, and I don't know.
actually, I might have.
Well, maybe. Pero yo vi una clase, 6 learning.
What's up, Juan?
Did you navigate back up to your root folder before you did yarn start?
back into storage, right? Or going to.
Oh, yeah.
We already started inside the client.
Yes.
Just popping back to it.
Yeah.
I guess. Like someone who's experienced the problem.
So this assignment's actually gonna have Mongo in it, so you'll see the full MERN stack. Wow.
You earned our word.
You earned your MERN. Had some lunch, got the M. It was nice.
Well, it's still pretty. Are you, which, what's your favorite?
That's SQL Server, dude. T-SQL is always.
Oh, yeah,
Come on, man.
At least you can have variables.
T-SQL is the best kind of SQL. To be completely honest. All the others are inferior.
Right. Wrote it for a little bit.
Just hanging out with those guys. Yeah, don't listen to them.
So do I.
I'm just saying.
I actually agree.
A lot of SQL Server back in the day. That's
my
way,
day.
way up here compared to all the other clients. Like, it's good. It's good. It's, you know, in JavaScript, it's more fun to do Mongo, but you can't always say.
Well, that was right. That was good.
What are you writing for your, this is for your job, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Right now, just
The SQL? Nice. It's good though. It's
Yeah,
a really
it's
awesome
good.
skill to have.
Comfortable with it, for sure.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
oh, no.
Survey got realized.
In the project too. I never picked.
Oh, yeah. Just send it to me. SQL, yeah, just send it to me. To remind me. Like you get the Darcy.
SQL, jQuery, VB.net. Really? VB? Yeah, it's a serious by stretching imagination.
Hey, but VB.net is practical in the sense that you'll know a lot of the constructs for C# if you ever move to it. I did both for a long time, and so I primarily did C#, but VB.net will at least teach you those same, the libraries are the same, most syntax isn't quite the same, obviously, but like the things you'll do to achieve something are pretty much the same. Except for that dumb and also keyword. That is dumb.
And also,
Mhm.
got that.
Well, it's just, I prefer double ampersand over
Yeah.
and also. They're annoying.
Well, I haven't started writing that yet, because we're not gonna have me writing models or something. So,
Right.
I'm just gonna do that.
Sounds pretty fun though. Every professional project will ever be on is totally convoluted and makes no sense. Because to the original developers, they're like, wow, this is like amazing, you know, well, I'm so smart. And then you get there, this is disgusting. What have you done? That's kind of how it goes, like every time. Same thing happens for me. I mean, people see my code and like, you're
You
an
don't have to
idiot.
tell me the stuff that we didn't see.
Yeah.
That was news. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't come in, you're like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And it gets worse, and that technical debt gets worse and
Oh,
worse.
God,
as you
yes,
continue
it
to go
does.
down the rabbit hole. There's so many things on the prod side that are just like horrible.
We're dealing with that
Tightly
now.
coupled to it, and it's like you can't just change something like everything's got to go and evaluate, and that original developer's done a job.
We're dealing with that now. We're totally refactoring like our server like, internal API stuff that you crack and talks to. So fun.
It's like you gotta like take a copy of that and move it to another like environment.
that communicates with like the same backend. You start testing shit that way.
Well, just like sometimes it's so bad. Like our stuff, some of our stuff is really small, so we could easily just rebuild it. But we're not really sure.
And you didn't use both folders, right? You did, you already did that in both folders?
Yeah.
Yes. No, I didn't do that. Okay, so you have a package that makes sense. You gotta run, you already have something, some of those things. You have to think this through. Okay, so yeah, we'll do this. Fine. So anyways, that's why it's not having a graph. Because graphs has some stuff, that it doesn't exist. You don't have to know about that. So I could react to it at all. Because React is not. So the depends on you. Yeah, that's the thing working with this type of side. I mean, that's how it is. They don't have really the things as one. And FS events go about that. That would work. React has a lot of switches. If you're using this, then it'll use certain things. So that if you're using yarn, it'll use otherwise it'll use FS events. They mix it but you don't have to deal with it directly. It's just React. It's just a lot of people on the internet. So it's very but it should work out because we'll give it a shot. But at least I have to do it. It's good. But you know, I have to always whenever I started getting maybe the latest version of Go will work. And you can't change the port on React, on Free React app, you can't change the port from 2010 unless you eject, and that makes sense. No. You do that one, so it's not like fine. We'll make 2000 work. I mean, the next thing we can do is what? Something happens because I'm sure we can go on my PC. I don't know if it's the node process is like if you open up the tab manager, it's still running. Huh, so maybe you have to say node process is still running on 2000 from last time. Oh yeah, that's what you gotta use it for. No, it's like gotta use it for. Like Mac is back to the Mac.
Okay, everyone, we are going to go over this. I know, again, it was really quick, and you might not all have finished, but we're going to do it anyway. So I have to run like so when you first open it, remember you got to do your yarn in the main folder, yarn in the client. And then if you want to test things out, you're going to have to run yarn seed, so you can seed your Mongo database with the records that they have pre-populated. Then I ran a yarn build, and then I should be able to do a yarn start, get them all running concurrently. Yeah, seed. You can see right here, they have it, a yarn seed, like in the package JSON. Sorry, I'll blow that up. And they just have a script, and that script's file called seeddb.js. You can take a look at that and see what it does. So what books should I read? Well, first of all, should be able to delete. Nice. Can delete books. A-okay. That's cool. Title my book. Title me. No thanks. Read a book. Nice. My book by me. It's awesome, right? Cool. So that simple app, right? There was a lot of functionality under the hood to handle all this. But overall, what it actually does UI-wise is very simple. And one thing I like to point out is the UI looks so simple, but every time we get in that code, is so much code to write. You know, it feels like the user never gets to see all that work we did, and it's so sad. Every time it feels like that. Yeah, so don't let this simple UI fool you. There's a lot of code behind the scenes there. All right, so let's take a look at it. The only file they had us change for this was the client components book.js. So why don't we take a look at it? Start from the top. Okay, so what did we have to do? We had to do a couple of things. First, we had to add the ability to have some inputs that can take in the title, the author, and the synopsis, and then a button that we could submit and add a new book to the database. And then we had to make sure we hooked up everything so we could delete stuff from the database, right? So we have the state here. We had the state and the component did mount. Those were pretty standard across what we've seen so far. If you're still confused about what these do or want to know a little bit more about them, we can talk about those too. So let me know. Remember, the component did mount fires one time after the component has been mounted, which means it's rendered once. First time it renders, runs that render function, and then it's going to run component did mount, load whatever it needs to do, you know, set the default values, and then it's going to re-render once that's done. All right? So the inputs, let's look at the inputs first. They built the inputs here, right? You want to assign the value. How do we assign the value? We just use the value attribute that we've used in normal HTML, right? All the inputs had a value, and in traditional HTML, say you wanted to pre-populate it with like 10 or a name or something like that, you could easily do it by just using the double quotes, kind of like this name, right? Well, here we have to use our curly braces, pull the title from state, and then it's set. Good to go. Does that on the author, does it on the title, does it on the synopsis, but the synopsis is slightly different. The text area. Why would the synopsis be a text area? It's not just one line, yeah. More of an HTML question, but it's a good one to touch back on. Why would we want to design it as a text area? Well, we have multiple lines, so it's probably better just to do it as a multi-line kind of input. The other thing we had to do is have an on-change handler. So again, we use this on-change attribute, and this is the default on-change for your HTML elements. And we're going to give it a function from React. This, because it's on the class, handle input change, in the curly braces. Okay? Look at that function. I want to explain what exactly is happening in this function. Make something just click, Cody?
Yeah.
You want to explain it then?
So it's taking this event object from the input field that you're typing into.
Yep.
And the event object has a name property and a value property. Value is whatever you type in, and the name is defined at the input. And then you're resetting the state to whatever input that was.
Yep.
To whatever you typed in.
Right. So if I change title, the event property, the target, will have two properties on it, a value, which is the value I've changed it to, and the name title. So it's set the state of title equal to that new value. And if we go up to the top here, we can state there's a title. So that's like that dynamic, very general function that can handle it for all of our inputs. You don't have to make it different for any of them.
I can hear Cody very well. Can you repeat
Oh, sorry.
Yes. So Cody was saying, when the handle input change happens, we get this event in. The event has this target object on it, which has two properties, name and value. We can simply pull out the name, and in the set state, we can dynamically allocate that name right here, right? So we dynamically say, hey, whatever that name was, that's the property and state we're updating, and then set the value of the input equal to that property. So for instance, title, right? Title comes in. This name is going to be title. Value will be whatever I put in. It's going to say in state update title to equal that value of the input. And so you make a nice generic function to handle all of your inputs.
So the state is changing value. The value is not changing the state.
The value, it's kind of both, right? When I change the value, it updates the state, and then when it re-renders, the state value is put back into the input.
So it's like kind of like a.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, very much so. You just have to look at it in the steps, though. The first thing that happens is we have an empty state, right? And so when we render out the input, it's just saying, well, the state of the title input is going to be the empty state, right? It's going to be an empty string because that's what it starts as. I type A. It goes and it runs handle input change. The value here would be A. The name would be title. We're going to change the title property to equal A. Now that's going to trigger a new render. It'll go back and render again. It'll come in here and it'll set the value on the input to A, and then it'll render everything for you. So now that input says A, when you run it again, you type another character, it's going to do that whole process. You know, B, C, D, whatever, and I'll just append it to state. So yeah, it's like a circle.
Is that kind of like how why it's so fast?
It's mainly so fast because the guys who wrote it are really good at writing rendering stuff, right? Like painting and rendering in the UI. They're good at that. And that's why it's fast. It helps that you have these components that can just re-render themselves really quick, because then the whole screen doesn't have to render.
Right.
And yeah, that is helpful. And it's getting even better. The newer versions of React will be able to do even more in that regard. So yeah, that's part of why it's so fast. Like there are just little components we can render one at a time, as opposed to having to rewrite the whole page. So then we've got this form button. We can go ahead and find that component if we want. Form button. All it is it takes in some props, right? And it assigns the props with spread. We all remember spread? Yes, no? Spread is a ton of fun. That's a good one. It just assigns the props there, gives it some baked-in style, and then it renders the props children. They were talking about earlier. It's kind of a pass-through, right? And the props children in this case happens to be the text submit book. This one's cool. It's got a little operator to determine if it's disabled. It uses the not sign, and then it says, is there an author and is there a title? If there's not, we're going to disable this button. If both of those exist, we can then submit a book. So that's some nice client-side validation you can do that's really simple and really cheap, right?
Disabled just HTML.
What?
Disabled.
Yeah, it's just the HTML disabled property. Right? Works the same way. Then we have an on click, on form submit. Now this is to go ahead and add a book, right? We always do. Why do we do the event prevent default? So it doesn't reload the page. Exactly. It's checking again. Now, do you need to do this? That's debatable. Because we just did it. Like, you can't even click the button, right? But it's possible that someone could make the buttons, not disabled and then click it. So it's good to have this in here a second time. So check again. The state and the author, or the title and the author, have been set. They're not blank. If they are, we can call the API a save book, which just calls a post request onto our Express server. And if that works, we'll call load books again, which calls a get request on the Express server and sets all the books in that list. This is like how modern websites work. It seems a lot more complicated than it is under the hood. We're running just kind of a simple post, a simple get, a simple delete, whatever. Now, yes, exactly. That's it. The last thing we do is we delete a book. So we have this list. Here's a real generic list, right? And it's based off of ternary. Are there any books? If there are some books, we're going to go ahead and we're going to render a list. Otherwise, we're going to show no results to display. This is some really nice stuff right here with these ternaries to say like, hey, you don't have any books or whatever. You don't have any something. This is the kind of stuff that's going to make your final projects from good to better, right? From good to great, because we're going to be able to see things like more user feedback so the users know what's going wrong, stuff like that. So these are the things to keep in mind. They really make your website feel more polished. Does anyone know why we're just checking .length and how that translates to a ternary operator?
There is a length.
Zero.
Zero? What does zero mean? It means false. Exactly. Okay.
So Carson, if you return the length of like 3, it will be positive?
Yep, it'll always be true.
Okay.
Any number that's not 0 is true. So it's a pretty simple check. Any more questions on this book? The books, Jess? Yeah. No, you can just run yard seed. So if we look at the package JSON for the server, it has this seed command, right? And so because it's its own command, you see here, it's in quotes itself. That's all you have to run with yarn. Yarn seed. Oh, it wasn't populating?
I don't see that.
There could be something, I don't know.
Automatic. We just yarn.
If you do yarn seed and your MongoDB is running, it should work. Right? If Mongo's not running, then it won't. Okay. Any more questions on this before we go to the next assignment? No? Okay. Alex, could you select out the React router assignment? The next one we're going to do. We'll do the React router, give you about 15 minutes on this one. And we'll give you 20 minutes. And then we'll go over it. And that'll actually be the end of class. There's a deployment assignment. We're going to Slack that out to you with all the information. And you guys can do that at home. And then the next class you have, before class, after class, whatever, talk with your TAs or your instructors about if you have questions with deploying. Cool? All right, so Alex, or one of the TAs should have that out soon. Sure. All right. So in this end, we're opening a task manager, right? Processes.
This is over environmental issues.
No, he's got Node running somewhere.
Well, I kill it and it comes back after I put the alert start because it's running it again.
Right. It's not killing. It's not killing properly somehow.
I even try to do like kill command. What was looking to restart your computer? Turn it off. I just did it not too long ago. Yeah. Well, I do some stuff with work too.
I don't see any Node processes.
Yeah, I just killed everything too. All the node.exe. And when I killed it, it was on a different port.
Interesting.
Yeah, it hangs out.
Going to. There's some more fan lines open. Just close these all. Do you want to open it again in the command line for me?
Git bash.
Git bash, yeah, whatever one you're comfortable.
I'm on the root.
Okay. Let's see.
I was never able to run Node on 3000. I just had to change it to a different port.
Yeah. You have something running on that port. Or on Windows. Yes, I can. Oh. Well.
Answer this. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah.
My deal with my pro, so. Again. I didn't make the jump 50 minutes. Didn't like sugar pants. So. Just bored.
Yeah, blackboard. Blackboard. Everyone. He's like, no, no.
I'm gonna hang them over and think. I'm gonna buy the property. You're not gonna sell it? We're gonna do. I am gonna sell it.
Yeah, I'm getting some around like that.
I could have lost much better.
That's right.
Adminservice.exe. Right. No, try running it.
What did you do?
There was a process called adminservice.exe that has to do with some Bluetooth drivers or something. It runs on port 5000.
And it was just running, huh?
Yeah, it must be something on your machine, like some built-in bloatware or something that runs it. If this works, if it doesn't work, then I'm full of shit. But there's definitely something running on port 3000. It was either that or whatever the program was that was underneath it. There you go. Oh wait, no, that's API. Come on, buddy.
I like the way it just says something's wrong.
Pretty helpful, huh?
Like, there's I mean, I actually checked all of that. There was no 40,000 on.
Oh, I just killed it. That's fine. And now it's. Dang it, you are blocking that port.
What?
Yeah.
Why don't you do the what you killed? Is it set to not do the way you removed it, Carson? Is it just for this session, or is it like
Yeah.
just good?
It's just for this session. If he starts up this machine again, I'm sure it will start up again.
What's it called again? Admin.
It's like adminservice.exe. Great question. What I saw was some Qualcomm like Bluetooth driver thing, and I was like, that's weird. So maybe there's some driver on your machine that's running something in the background when you start it up that's consuming them.
Maybe I uninstall the app or whatever it is.
I would just change these to run on a different port.
Yeah, but to Qualcomm.
Yeah. So you can change the port you want it to run on pretty easily.
Yeah, but I need to find the app, right?
Okay, so it was.
I want to go back.
Admin service that does. But it doesn't matter. I killed it and it's not. It's some Bluetooth driver. I killed it. It didn't help.
Start it menu.
Not anymore.
Like for apps that you just start during startup.
Go to your task manager again.
Like,
And you can go to startup. So it itself does not, and I'm sure it's something in here. Maybe this common software manager. I don't really know. The thing is, that was such a generic, like, who the hell knows what that is? This says it's something to do with Bluetooth drivers. Next time it's open, we can find where. Go to C program files. Let's see if it exists in there. Like in your Explorer. Program files. Okay. It's not in there. Go to x86. The x86 one. Program files x86. Okay, so that's not what it is on his machine. I don't know what the hell it is, to be honest with you. You have to look for it next time you start your machine and try to track it down. But that wasn't the only problem. I don't really know why you can't connect to the port right now. Because it says it can't determine what's listening on that port. One I'll run it from We have React Router now in this one, and so it's that book assignment again, but now we have the fancy, different books we can look at, which is totally cool, right? Did anyone finish this one? No, not yet? Okay, well, we're going to talk about it really quick. Okay, let's open up the client, source, app.js. First thing you got to do when you're using React Router is define your basic routes, right? Does anyone not remember how or like what these basic routes mean? What we're doing here, what setting the component means. Is any of this part right here confusing, or you don't remember what it means, or you want more explanation? What's up, Tyler? Switch. Let's see what switch is. Where's switch? Ooh, it's part of the React Router DOM. All right. Let's see what switch does. I have no idea.
Switch basically says like, hey, you're gonna have like a list of items, and they're from like a navigation point of view. So switch injects a style. I forget the exact part of it, but you can add a style to it if switch is enabled, and you just add a style to it.
So it styles a group of routers, kind of like a nav bar.
Yes, you would use it for a nav bar. Yeah.
There you go. Thanks for the explanation, Alex. Appreciate it. Because I have never seen switch. I have not ever used this with React Router. So it's good that we have Alex here to help fill in that void. So if we want to look at more on the switch, we can go ahead. I'm going to pull up the React Router docs. We'll just show this together really quick. Go to React Router. Go to web. We'll go ahead and look for switch, see if it just comes up. Hey, look at that. Nice. That's awesome. But it doesn't tell us anything about that, so we can scroll down. Here's the switch. The switch renders the first child route or redirect that matches the location. How is this different than using a bunch of routes? Switch is unique in that it renders a route exclusively. In contrast, every route that matches the location renders inclusively. Consider the code. So basically, what I had to do, and what I'm going to have to do to explain this to you is read these docs, okay? This is a good lesson for everyone. I have no idea what it does. So this is like a test. You need to go find the docs, okay? This is what I would do in a professional setting. I open up this code. I see switch. I go, what the hell is a switch? I don't know. I know it has to do with React Router, right? Because we saw that it was in those props. Or not in those props, in that import. I'm sorry. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to have to go look. I'm going to figure out what it is. And then I'm going to just have to understand it, I guess, reading the docs, know what it does. Maybe I don't play with it. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes you have to do that independent research, and there's not going to be anyone there to help you. Thankfully, I had Alex to help me, and that was great. But, yeah, so that's a life example right there. It's my way of saying I have no idea what that does. Anything else on this page you want to look at? You want to look at the nav bar, that one. Right here? This is a self-closing HTML tag, Remember those?
But it's not at the end of the event?
It doesn't need to be. So this one's saying that it has no props and it doesn't take any children. It just renders whatever's there. So we can look at the nav and see what it's rendering. Okay? And yeah, it's rendering pretty much just some buttons for like a toggle, right? And it's React reading list. That's it. It's very static component. So this is a really great one that's reusable, right? You're not going to want to embed this in anything else because it's just static content. There's no reason you need to. Cool. So let's look at the what happens with the pages. So we have the books page again. This is the one that allowed us to add a book, delete a book. This is like our home page, so to speak. But now we have a link because of the router to a book. It's /books, and then the book.id, right, or _ID, that comes from Mongo, right? We're all familiar with the Mongo _ID, automatically associated with the item when it's stored into Mongo. And then some other props from the book so that we can, like, you know, show a little bit about it. It tells you what your link's going to go to. And those links will take us to this details page, which is its own stateful component. You can see right here, remember how we talked about props match? Automatically, the props.match automatically comes in when you match a URL with React Router. So it's special props that you get by default because you have React Router doing extra work for you. There's other things with the, other than the params, there's like .url. We'll tell you the URL you're currently at in your React Router, in your React application. And this one has all the params that are passed in. So if we go back to our route, we have this :ID, very similar to Express. Remember how in Express we have :ID to show when we want to pass in a dynamic anything ID and be able to use that as a parameter? It's effectively the same thing, just on the client side. So we pull out that ID and we're sending an API request back to Express and asking Express to load that up for us. We get the result back. We go ahead and put the result into state, and that's where we're going to get this render with a whole bunch of book information. You can see here the default state is preventing us from having to do a conditional render. Because we're setting this to an empty object, the state.book.synopsis, title, author, they'll all just be empty. So if for some reason you manage to get to this page without a valid ID that would, you know, return nothing, you just probably see by in there, and that's it. You shouldn't be able to get here unless you just fabricate an ID and try to get there. You'll get some garbage data, but that's what you'll see. What's up, Cody?
So React Router automatically passes the match as props to the component.
Yes.
That is rendered in.
Yes. There's a few things React Router sends automatically. One's match. There's one, I think, for history. There's a couple of them. If you look at the React Router docs, they talk about them. And they have a bunch of stuff. So any more questions on what this little React Router process is doing? I know there's not a whole lot to show here that's new. And I know I couldn't explain the switch to you very well, but it seems like the switch is just more of a UI-based styling component, as opposed to anything that's super important in terms of routing. What's important to know here is the routing. We can use dynamic components. And if we don't, here we have one that's no match. Here's a good one to talk about too. If we don't get a path, right? What happens if we put in some garbage path that doesn't even matter? What are we going to do? We're going to load this no match page. It just says, hey man, you did not come to anything we know about. 404, page not found, right? You can style these all fun, put little characters running around saying, you can't find the page, you know, whatever you decide to do.
Like the guy from Zelda is dead. Like I did link.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, it sounded really dark at first. I was like, that guy's dead? Like, what are you talking about? So that's the no match. You just basically you put in no path, right? No path. The React Router, I would do it last. Always do it last. Otherwise, it'll probably always match it, I would assume. No path says, hey, we're just going to default to this component when we don't know what to do. It's basically what that's saying. Any other questions on the React Router? Cool. Well, Alex, if you'll select out the solved for the React Router so we can look at that. And then also same GitLab. And then are the deployment assignments up there too? So on GitLab, the deployment assignments are up there. I know we didn't get to see those, but you can download them. Download the unsolved one, try to work through it. Download the solved if you just want to see how it works, get a good example. Otherwise, that's all we have for class today. And if you have a question? Oh, you didn't see Mongo? Okay, so the Mongo's not going to be on the Rec side, right? The Rec talks to the API. So once we hit the server, we'll have these controllers. So it does something kind of weird. These aren't the routes, obviously, but this is where it's talking to Mongo. It's importing the database object, which has all of the models. And it's calling like book, find by ID, and remove, and update, create, and all of those things, right? Those are being called from the API routes. So here's your express router. You're using these controllers as like an isolated file to handle just your Mongo commands. And then the router itself can just hook those up. So you see it's really nice and simple. It's called .route. Basically here with this .route, we're saying that we want every route, all the following routes to just be activated with a /:ID. So a dynamic ID. So basically if you go to /book/ and it's a GET request, it's going to call book controller.findById. If you call a put request, it's going to do .update. And if you do a delete request, it's going to do .remove. Okay? So those are your routes. And this is how we get to the MongoDB. You're here, okay? So here's your router use. We export the router again. We go all the way up to your server. And here are the routes. Cool? Okay, anyone who, so the way this is gonna work is take like a 5-minute break, go to the bathroom, get a drink, whatever you wanna do. Anyone who doesn't wanna stay, you're welcome to leave. If you have questions not related to this React stuff that we're about to go over, ask one of the TAs, they're here to help you. I'm just gonna go right into it. So, yeah. Yes. I'm shutting down this stream and I'll slack out a new one in just a moment.